Well, you know, it's why should we be surprised? The mainstream media has never wanted to give this president the credit that he's deserved. As you know, the stock market is through the roof. People's 401ks are better than they were a year ago. And I don't know who else could be the Time Magazine Man of the Year other than our president, Donald Trump.
But, Corey, to set this up, does it surprise you at all? Because the president came out preemptively and said, hey, Time Magazine reached out to me. They said I probably will be Man of the Year, but not sure. They want to take photos. They want to do an interview. And then Time Magazine defensively comes out and says, no, that never happens. We don't talk to people before we reveal it on December 6th. But, Corey, of course they do talk to people who they make because they want to do the interviews and the photos. So how often does the president expose the media for who they are?
Well, I can tell you this. 2 years ago, in the middle of the campaign, when he was about to be the Republican nominee, Time Magazine called up the campaign. I remember speaking to them directly. They said, look, we want to come in. We want to take pictures in Trump Tower. Donald Trump may be the Man of the Year. We can't tell if he will or won't be. Last year, the president is now basically the president-elect. And now they say, we want to come in and take pictures. Same thing. We know he should be the Man of the Year. Time Magazine does this all the time. And the difference is this president calls out the media when they're dishonest, and no one's ever done it before him. And that's why the American people love him. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we have a full screen of the cover from last year. It's Time Magazine of President Trump being the Man of the Year. Of course, Person of the Year, Man of the Year in that context. I mean, how important, Corey, stepping back from this, how significant is his ability to both talk to, interact with the so-called mainstream media, see the news that's actually happening and whether it's true or not true, and then report basically through his Twitter feed to the American people what he sees as true or fake news? I mean, almost nobody else has that kind of perch to both see and comment. And what's the lasting critique of the media this president will have?
Well, it's so important that, you know, the reason he was elected was because all of the other politicians would just play the game with the mainstream media, and he wasn't a politician. He can go directly to the American people through all of his social media. You know, he's got probably 100, 120 million people that follow him. He's got 42, 43 million people on Twitter alone. And what he now does is he calls out the dishonest media all the time. What we see now is, you know, Fusion GPS looks like they paid 3 reporters. Let's find out who those people are.
Yeah.
Let's find out when the president goes out and tells people what the truth is, why the media doesn't want to report it that way. So the difference here with this president is, unlike the previous administration, he's willing to call the media out when they're dishonest, and that's what the American people love about him.
Corey, another big topic this upcoming week is tax reform and President Trump trying to work with Republicans in the Senate to get it done. We've seen Senators Mike Lee as well as Lindsey Graham say that basically Republicans are dead if they don't get tax reform done in the 2018 midterm elections. Does President Trump share that same concern about the political ramifications if they don't get it done?
Well, I think everybody shares that concern. And when you have Mike Lee and Lindsey Graham working together to get a significant tax cut bill done, which is what the president has ran on as a candidate and now has pledged to do as the president, it is so important. I think it's going to be very difficult if they don't get this bill done for those Republicans to go back to their districts in the election year next year and say, look what we've accomplished, because they really haven't accomplished anything. What the president's been able to do through executive orders and through deregulation is to get the economy moving again, to make sure those businesses know that there is a future for them, that they're going to get a tax cut. But now we're relying on Congress to get that done. And if they don't get that done, and we've got a very short window, we've got about a dozen days left in the congressional calendar, then there will be accountability at the ballot box, and those Republicans in the House and the Senate will be held accountable.
Time is running out. Corey, on Tuesday, the president meeting with the Big Four, as they say, Ryan, Pelosi, McConnell, and Schumer. What can we expect from that? What are they going to talk about?
Look, I think what the president is going to say is that you have to cut the business taxes from that 35% to 20% so that we can continue to be competitive in the global marketplace. You have to give individuals a tax cut. This is what he's pledged. This is what he ran on, and this is what he said he wants to do. And now it's time for Congress to act. I think the biggest things that the president wants to talk about is the tax cuts for corporations, the tax cuts for the middle class, and making sure that people have more money in their pockets, because that is what is stimulating this economy. We've got $6 trillion in new value. We've got unemployment at the lowest it's been in literally a lifetime. But you have to give people the tax cuts because that's what they've pledged to do.
Hang on, Corey. So what you're saying there, now this is important. Let's assume, hypothetically, that the Senate comes back and actually this week passes their version of the bill. Can the House and Senate, by year's end, reconcile that one thing you've talked about, which is the corporate tax rate cutting from 35% to 20%. The Senate bill, if passed as it is, will delay it 1 year. The House enacts it immediately. The president drew a line in the sand and said 20% right now. Do you foresee a problem in reconciling that in perhaps the last biggest hurdle they've got?
Look, I don't understand what value proposition these geniuses in Washington think of delaying a tax bill till 2019 to delay the cuts. It doesn't make any sense. Let's get it done. Let's give the relief to those businesses right now, starting in January. Look, if it were me and I could do it, I'd retroactive this whole thing so you could actually have the tax cuts right now.
Yeah.
This is what the president wants. He wants to see small businesses take off. He wants to see people hire more people, make those capital investments. But delaying this to 2019, in my opinion, is a big mistake. Let's get that significant portion done. And look, if you have to spend an extra day at work, let's do that. Let's get what the American people deserve, which is the tax cuts that they have asked for. And let's not just say we've only got 12 days to work in Christmas, in December. Maybe you have to work 13 or 14 days. Whatever it may be, let's get the bill done.
Corey, I'm not going to dwell on the fact that my Minnesota Vikings are better than your Patriots this year. However,
hey, the playoffs are the playoffs.
We'll see.
Baby.
We'll see.
We got to prove a record of
Maybe
winning.
you can come to my home state and play in the Super Bowl. We'll see. But the NFL, the cultural critique of the NFL is something this president has made front and center over the last couple of months, saying, stand for our national anthem. On the other side of the aisle, there's a different perspective, including Ben Rhodes, who's been a long-term mouthpiece of sort of the Obama point of view. He tweeted this yesterday about President Trump. He said, Trump has done far more disrespect to our country and our flag than any football player, including these constant attacks on black athletes. You know, Corey, again, it always goes to race. Is the president making it about race, or is he making it about the anthem?
Well, as you know, this has nothing to do with race. This is about standing up and respecting the flag that my family, my brother, my grandfather, my father all fought for in our military, that you have fought for, to show the respect that it deserves. And look, remember, this is a game. I stand with Jerry Jones where he says Roger Goodell should not be paid $50 million a year, a free jet, and health care for life for a league which is falling apart when you can't, you know, they make rules so the players have to wear certain socks and certain shoes and can't wear certain things on their jerseys. But you can't ask them to stand and show the respect for this flag. It has nothing to do with race. This is all about showing the respect for our children and our grandchildren and making sure that they understand that the flag is something that we honor, that our families have fought for, that is a symbol of our great country. And you know what? If you're not willing to stand for that amazing symbol, then maybe you shouldn't have the privilege of playing a game for a living and making a lot of money doing it. And I hold Roger Goodell responsible for that.
Well, Corey, we're counting on you because you're in New England. Your Patriots owner, Bob Kraft, is on the board of whether or not they rehire Roger Goodell or not. So thanks, Corey. Thanks so much.
Just keep those balls inflated, okay, bud?
I'm going to do my best as long as we win, baby, as long as we win.
Been in the White House, been inside this decision-making cycle. So you've got an attack on a mosque inside Egypt. You've got al-Sisi, who's more of a strongman who wants to be part of the fight against radicals. How do we enable, getting at both the ideology but also these Islamists where they are?
Well, Pete, the president has it absolutely right. There's two parts to this war. Number one is the kinetic part of it, the part that you're familiar with, the application of military force on target. In the last 10 months, the president has unleashed our military, and you see what the results are. You see Mosul liberated, Raqqa liberated. The caliphate no longer exists as a physical entity. Now comes the harder part. The harder part is to destroy the ideology. Just as we defeated fascism, just as we defeated communism, we have to take down the attractiveness of the concept of jihad. And the way we do that is we support wholeheartedly people like President Sisi, people like King Abdullah of Jordan, to have their version of Islam become the real version that is dominant in the world today. They're the people on the front line. Look at the numbers. It's not just this mosque attack. It's all over the region. Their version of Islam, in which they wish to be friends with us, has to be the dominant one. So really, it's a counter-propaganda campaign with our Muslim partners on the front line.
Are we doing enough on that front to fight the propaganda and fight the radical ideology?
We're not yet. No, as I wrote in my book, we have to go back to the model we had in the 1980s under President Reagan. We had something called the Active Measures Working Group. functioning out of the interagency that went to deliberately target the propaganda of the Soviet Union. We need that same kind of White House-driven counter-propaganda push. But these tweets by the president tell you he knows what we need, but we have to build it now and build it with our Muslim partners. It'll take time, but it's absolutely essential, Lisa.
Dr. Gorka, talking about building things and tweeting, the president tweeted on building the wall. Here's what he had to say. We have to get tougher and smarter than ever before, and we will need the wall, need the ban. God bless the people of Egypt. Tying all of this together in terms of his concerns on all security fronts, what say you?
He's absolutely right, Griff. Look at what we've seen happen in Europe already. When you destroy the physical bases of these organizations like Al-Qaeda, like ISIS, you never kill everybody. Some of them escape. And some ISIS members have actually made their way to Europe. We know one of the Brussels attackers was on a false Syrian passport. He'd acquired asylum or refugee status before he executed the attack. We need to stop that happening here in America. So the wall is essential. The immigration stop, extreme vetting, these are all absolutely crucial to our security. And the president knows that because he takes his responsibility to protect all Americans very, very seriously.
Yeah, but of course his critics call him an Islamophobe, but you can both hold the idea that God bless the people of Egypt and also want to ban at the same time to secure your own country.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. I mean, they know it better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So they know how their community in Egypt has been infiltrated by ISIS fighters. It's called Bait al-Maqdisi, is the ISIS franchise in the Sinai. And they're doing exactly to that country what they wish to do to us and what they've done to Europe. So, yes, you can be a friend to Muslims who are on our side whilst wishing to keep extremists out of America.
Thank you, Dr. Gorka.
I had the privilege of working with and for her as a Secret Service agent. I found Mrs. Clinton to be the most deceptive human being, manipulative political person in a position of power I'd ever met in my entire life. It wasn't so much that she was a liar. It was that she did it and she deceived and manipulated with such ease.
So that was Dan Bongino. Yes, strong words from Dan Bongino on, as many of us are, on Tucker on Wednesday. We're going to bring in Dan right now. Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent, former NYPD officer, and the host of the Dan Bongino Show. So Dan, you triggered a few people, especially some former Hillary Clinton staffers who took to Twitter and had a different view of whether or not you have a view of Hillary Clinton. This is Nick Merrill. He was a traveling press secretary and aide to Hillary Clinton. This is what he tweeted after your segment on Tucker on Wednesday. He said, "I've worked for Hillary Clinton for a decade, and two things are true. She has enormous respect for the Secret Service and a great relationship with the agents on her detail. And two, this guy, meaning you, was never on the Clintons' detail, and I don't recognize him in the slightest." So, Dan, you know, the internet has a way of working these things out. I think you were a part of pushing this out as well. There's some photos, pesky photos that have emerged of you on her detail.
The photo doesn't lie. That looks like a young, dashing, handsome Dan Bongino. We're going to ask him also about what happened between that photo and now. But the point is, the photos don't lie. It's the same, you know. Al Franken couldn't get away. Yeah. Dan, what do you say now that this is played out?
Yeah, that's interesting. That photo was taken in 2001 at the U.S. Open tennis tournament and was on the back cover of Newsday. It was actually a color photo. I don't know why I made it black and white a long time ago to make it seem more, give some emotion in it or something. I'm not sure. But I had it on an Instagram. Now, what's interesting about that is these people are very clever, the Clinton mob out there. They always attack the messenger when you go after the Clintons, right? And he says something, he goes, well, he was never on the detail. And he's right. I was not on her presidential campaign detail. But I was there way before Nick arrived. My mounds of work and the government documents I have showing my pile of work with the Clintons is probably this thick. I knew the Clintons probably before Nick did. So it's just interesting that he would pick a fight with me. Let me just make this point, guys, too, because this is important. This is how the Clinton mob works, right? What they do is they need the Clintons to stay in power and to stay relevant. So they need to discredit anybody with information on the Clintons that may impugn their reputation and cover up the bevy of secrets that are still out there. I'm telling you guys, because sources feed me stuff all the time. There's stuff out there on the Clintons that hasn't been made public. And believe me, they know it because they were there when it happened.
So stop for 1 second, Dan. I want to get your take on how this actually made you feel when Nick Merrill put that out, a communications guy, a spin guy. That's what he does for a living. This is what the press folks in Washington do. Put that photo up for one more second. You're sitting literally behind her in proximity, and your job at that very moment, your job is to protect her should the unthinkable happen. You're very close, perhaps the closest in proximity to her. We have seen certainly in public events like this, things can happen. Your life is technically on the line there, and we shouldn't overlook that point. How does it make you feel when Nick Merrill says, nah, you weren't even there?
Yeah, well, it's kind of disgusting, and he's a disgusting human being. He really is. He's never put his life on the line for anything other than maintaining the sad, sick political aura of the Clintons. And you know, I say to Nick, who tweeted that and, you know, went after me, the message, that's fine. You're certainly entitled to do that. I respect your right to fight back, but I'm going to fight too. You know, I swore an oath to the Constitution in the Secret Service. I did not swear an oath to cover for the misdeeds of your messiah, Hillary Clinton, and neither did the people who contact me. I can't give them up. And, you know, fair enough, Griff, some people have said, well, you know, if you have information, put it out there. I totally understand that. I get it. But I don't think you understand the position I'm in. These are friends of mine and associates who have contacted me over the course of many years with very damaging information on these people that is unimpeachable and more than credible. I can't just put it out there without getting them hurt. If they say to me, listen, this is here, but I'm afraid to talk because they're afraid of the Clintons, which they are, I'm not going to get them and their families and put them in potential jeopardy with their jobs. It's an awkward position to be in. But the Clintons got to be very careful about poking that bear.
And Dan,
I'm telling you, I can't say this enough. People know what happened with them.
Dan, we want to hear from you on another topic as well. An MS-13 victim was stabbed 100 times, his heart ripped out of his chest in a sanctuary jurisdiction out of Maryland. When we hear stories like this, obviously President Trump has talked about MS-13. He talked about the gang on the campaign trail. He's also talked about it as president of the United States. When we hear stories like this, doesn't this make it more difficult for critics to oppose sanctuary jurisdictions?
You know, Lisa, the critics have no point. You know, we just passed Thanksgiving, right? And I think everybody thanks God every day for our fighting men and women and them keeping this country safe, right? And that flag that they drape themselves in overseas. What does that mean to you? No, I'm serious. Like, to the listening audience out there, and I know we have a lot of liberals. Of course, you're always welcome to put your eyeballs on the channel. But what does that mean to you? Like, we have jurisdictions now that have taken that flag and thrown it out the window and said, hey, anybody's welcome here, anytime, for any reason. Policies and laws be damned. And what happens? What happens is people die. People are killed in the real world when really stupid people in positions of power throw the flag, the laws, and the rules and regulations out the window and let anybody and their family come in despite the rules and regulations. I ask one simple question to those people. Where do you want to go if you were a potential criminal coming into the country illegally? Where? Do you want to go to a sanctuary county, knowing you will never be reported to the immigration for deportation, and you'll be almost protected by local police, or you want to go to a law and order county? Where do you want to go?
Dan,
Pretty simple answer.
Dude, we only have a couple of seconds here, Dan. You ran for Congress in that very district. How bad is the MS-13 problem there?
Pete, it's off the. It's like a nuclear explosion of illegal immigration in that county. It's worse than anybody knows. Go there and check it out if you think I'm misleading you.
All right. Well,
I don't think you are. So no.
We'll take your word for it. Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Dan,
this
appreciate
morning.
it. Thanks
we
a lot.
Appreciate it.